Member for Countryside and Regulatory Services, and I'd like to welcome you to my Decision Day this afternoon. This Decision Day is being broadcast live on YouTube, which can be accessed via the County Council website. I'd like to welcome fellow councillors, Councillor Adams King, Councillor Tim Groves, Councillor Sarah Pankhurst, and Councillor Jackie Branson. And I've received apologies from Councillor Kim Taylor from the Labour Group. So today we have some deputations. So before coming to my agenda item, I've only got one agenda item today, we're going to take the deputations. So we have 4 deputations along with a county councillor who's asked to speak. That's Councillor Pal Hare. And I'd just like to welcome everyone who's come to make a deputation today and say that I'm not intending to go into exempt session. So please be mindful to keep comments centred on the open report that's in the public domain and not to include information that's not featured in that report, such as specific financial information contained within bids. Because if we do stray into those sorts of details, then it would fall under the exemption paragraphs and move us into exempt session. I'd rather keep this all in the public domain. So I just thought I'd mention that. So each deputation can be up to 10 minutes in length. So I'd like to start with Dame Caroline Dinenage, please. And I'm very grateful to you for attending my decision day on this item, Dame Caroline. And I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you very much. Please take up to 10 minutes.
Thank you so much, Councillor Oppenheimer, and thank you to all of you for your time today. I won't take anything like 10 minutes because I think probably the most valuable people you'll hear from today will be those who are more involved in the plans to take over the site. But as the Member of Parliament for this site, my constituency covers Gosport, Leon Solent, Stubbington and Hill Head, and this is part of Hill Head. You have to understand the reason that I wanted to have a quick opportunity to catch up with you today is to express the concern from so many of my local residents and others regarding not just the way that this site, the Haven House and Haven Cottage, was closed, leading to the closure of the visitor centre and shop and cafe, but also the recommendation that this lifeline that's been suggested for this site will not be accepted. I supported the Titchfield Haven Community Hub and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust proposals. I think they do provide a viable future for Haven House alongside the wider National Nature Reserve. And my support is also seconded by the government. The government have agreed to provide the Community Ownership Fund and Fareham Borough Council, who've granted planning consent for Haven House to be used as a holiday let. So so all of that suggests that there is much wider support than just mine, and clearly it's very well supported from within the community. I think both at the Haven Community Hub and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust must be extremely disappointed by this recommendation, and I think they all feel very strongly, as do I, that further dialogue could have taken place to allay some of the concerns that are raised within the report. And I'm not going to go into the report as you've requested, but I do think that the issue here is a distinct lack of communication and a lack of open and honest dialogue, and I think that is a huge error that's happened here. I think at this time of financial pressure, I fully understand the financial pressure that the council is facing, but I think that more than ever we have to look at modern forward-thinking approaches that will have the ability to transform, to look at the opportunities ahead of us rather than just the challenges. And I was against disposing of the site in the first place, as you know, because I think disposing of publicly owned buildings, although offering a tempting boost to the finances, is very much a one-off short-term solution. But actually, now that we are where we are, we have to find a positive way forward. And Haven House Visitor Centre and Cafe has been a site of massive importance to the local community. It brings enormous benefits, attracts people from a much wider area. It's within walking distance for many residents of Hill Head. We all know the health and well-being benefits of being out in the fresh air. My constituency is a very popular place for people to retire to. We have a lot of older residents, and for them, for keeping older people active and out and about, we know the health benefits of that. But alongside it, there are also benefits from being able to meet and socialise within the community, and the important support in cases of well-being, reducing social isolation, and all the health benefits that are derived from that as well. You'll recall, don't need to reiterate the significant local interest from local residents about this and other regulars at the site. They were so upset and in many cases devastated by the council's decision to sell the site in the first place. But they see this next set of proposals where this lifeline has been suggested as being a double blow. They just can't believe that the proposals to save this community facility have been refused. Someone said to me, it's like breaking up with a partner and then not wanting them to go out with anybody else. It's a terrible state of affairs. I would strongly encourage the committee to listen to public opinion on this matter, to look very, very closely at the options that are on the table, and if there are any concerns surrounding the business plan, to delay a decision until there has been further dialogue with both the Titchfield Haven Community Hub and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. I think that this is too good an opportunity to pass up. I think it would be narrow-minded. I think it would be hasty, and I think that the committee needs to think again. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Caroline. That was very clear and yeah, well heard. I've got more deputations to listen to before I say anything, though, and so I'm going to move on to the second deputy, which is Lynn Murray, Director of Titchfield Haven Community Hub. Lynn Murray, please.
Thank you, Councillor Oppenheimer. Good afternoon to you and the rest of the committee. I'm a Director of Titchfield Haven Community Hub and I'm its Company Secretary. I understand that the recommendation from the Universal Services Select Committee is effectively to reject our business plan and sell Haven House on the open market. I am here this afternoon, obviously, to urge you to reject this recommendation. I understand that you've read the response from Titchfield Haven to the officer's report recommending that our bid be rejected. And as you were at the meeting this morning, you will be aware of the deputations which have been made to the Select Committee, so I won't go over the same ground. However, I would invite you to consider the following. The public face of Titchfield Haven Community Hub and the core team which put the business plan together is its 3 founder members and directors and the honorary treasurer. Between them, they have several decades of experience in running various successful businesses, many of them multi-million-pound turnovers, and in advising other multi-million-pound businesses how to run theirs. Behind this public face are several other professional and business people who have contributed to the business plan, all of whom have enjoyed or continue to enjoy successful business and professional careers. They include planning experts, valuation experts, business planning experts, construction experts, catering experts, HR experts, procurement experts, accountancy experts, and IT experts. So the people who have put together the bid for Haven House are not the well-meaning amateurs, which I suspect you and your officers seem to think we are. And we deserve to have our proposals treated with professional courtesy and respect, instead of having the proposals rejected out of hand without any evidence and without even any attempt at dialogue. This raises another equally important issue, which Dame Caroline has alluded to. You and the other Hampshire councillors have been elected to represent all the people living in Hampshire, not just those who voted for you. These include the nearly 10,000 Hampshire people who supported our campaign by signing our petition last year, the thousands more who took part in your survey, the hundreds more who wrote to you and other councillors objecting to your closing the cafe at Haven House, the thousands who have seen and in many cases commented on our posts on Facebook and Nextdoor over the last few months, and the hundreds who in a little over 5 days have indicated they would contribute an extraordinary £222,000 to the campaign. This is in defiance of your officers who expressed yet more unfounded scepticism as to whether we could raise the necessary funds. These people are older people. They're middle-aged people, young adults, children, teenagers, single people, couples, families with young children, parents, grandparents, daughters and sons, people in good health and people in bad health, people with mental health problems or issues, people on low incomes and those better off. In fact, together, these various groups comprise a good cross-section of the people living in Hampshire whom you and your fellow councillors are supposed to represent. And yet, the most common complaints we have heard from all of these groups are, why is Hampshire ignoring us? Why are they determined to go ahead with a plan which thousands of us don't want? Why won't they listen to us? Why should we trust them if they won't listen? Why should we vote for them? This is a real crisis of democracy right on your doorstep, which you ignore at your peril. If you decide to accept the Select Committee's recommendation and press ahead with selling off Haven House on the open market, it will still be there, a constant reminder to the thousands of people of what they have lost. It will remind them of a council which refused to listen to them, which didn't value their health and well-being sufficiently to reappraise their plans and engage with the community to find a way forward. It will remind them daily of the anger and frustration they felt. It will also not end there. When whoever buys Haven House applies for planning permission, they will find that the local community opposes them at every step. So after all the effort which has gone into our business plan, ours and yours, after all the countless hours spent on spreadsheets, research, interviews, the least you, as one of our elected representatives, could do is to listen and reject the Select Committee's recommendations to reject our bid and sell Haven House on the open market, and instead allow time for a proper constructive discussion on our bid to take place. We, along with the rest of your constituents who have supported our campaign, wait for you to make the right decision. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you for that, Lynn. We have another deputation from the Community Hub. It's Caroline Herbert, who I know was there this morning because I spoke to her. Hello, Caroline. Over to you, and you also have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, Councillor Oppenheimer and everybody else, or the other councillors. As you said, I'm Caroline Herbert, one of the directors of Titchfield Haven Community Hub. The main reason for my deputation is to ask for a short pause on the decision making and for a meeting with the decision makers regarding the future of Haven House, as we do not understand why it has been recommended to be rejected. There has been emails over the last 6 months, but we still have no idea what you will or won't accept. Do we have to put in 100 bids before we get the right one? Reference was made in various emails, an exchange of nil consideration would be considered. Now we find out it will not. If we did take over Haven House, there would be minimal cost to HCC. But if it was sold on the open market, there would be significant costs involved to sort a new visitor centre. Is this to be taken into consideration when looking at our bid? It was said that no work has been done on the reserve for 6 months because you didn't have the cash from the sale of Haven House. However, we understand a cash bid was offered to you in February for Haven Cottage. Why has it not completed? Why did you not sell or lease it years ago? And then maybe you would not be in this financial situation with the reserve. Pick up on a point that Joe Heath said this morning, that the pledges were too late and were only pledges, not actual cash. It would not be possible for us to take cash from people until we are certain that we could obtain Haven House, which is why we didn't ask for them before. Again, no communication between you and us. We know we can raise a lot of money. In 4 days, we've raised over 222,000 from the public. We've raised 185,000 from the COF Fund. The Hammond Trust have offered us a substantial sum of money, as has the Co-op Fund. With all the donations, we can renovate Haven House to a high standard so that it is able to make a good profit, allowing us to make significant donations to the Nature Reserve. We are prepared to go away and see what else we can bring to the table, but we need to understand what it is you are looking for. We were aiming for a long-term solution for Haven House and the Nature Reserve that saves HCC a significant amount of money in the short term. Clearly, it appears HCC is satisfied with just a short-term solution. We have been unable to find any long-term financial plans for the reserve. As you know from your survey, everyone cares about it, and we need to know. We plan to donate to renovation projects such as boardwalks or hives. Visitors to Haven House have always donated one in the past. I suggest that maybe now they don't, as there's no cafe. HC future plans say to build the capacity of communities to create and shape their own places. Let us help you do this. Due to mammoth effort, we have done so much. We have done it with not one single face-to-face meeting with anybody in HCC. We have gained full support from everyone we have dealt with in our research. This hard work has not been for our benefit. It is for the people of Hampshire from every walk of life that could benefit from this special community asset, Haven House. What we expect and deserve in return from you is respect and communication, so we can understand each other's perspective and work together to obtain the best outcome for all. There can be no doubt that our option fits with all the requirements of the HCC strategic plan described on your website, whereas selling Haven House does not meet the requirements of the strategic plan. And as reported in December 22, it fails the Equalities Impact Assessment. So we need to understand why this option is even on the agenda. I naively thought the best way to understand any decision making was to look at the HCC strategic plan, which says, number one, maintain strong and resilient economic growth. If THCH takes over Haven House, there will be more employment in this area, and it has many, many possibilities for further opportunities to help both local and more distant communities in the future for people from all groups of life. To keep the lives of people in Hampshire safe, healthy and independent. Okay, discussions of how the cafe used to encourage exercise and improve mental well-being have been put forward previously. Its location on the South Coastal Path is perfect for walkers, and the sea encourages many types of activities. 3, to help people enjoy a rich and diverse environment. Well, with the nature reserve next door, the Neolithic site on the beach, the opportunities for education of people in nature and climate change of all ages is huge, as well as to enjoy the environment itself. There are only 15,000 visits to the nature reserve the year before last, but 85,000 to the cafe. The cafe is the community asset, not the nature reserve, and it probably gets very few visits now the cafe has gone. 4, to help people enjoy being part of a strong, inclusive and resilient community. Previously, the cafe worked very well at doing this, and we intend not only to reproduce it, but enhance it further. So why do you not support our plan when 6 other groups of people do? The COF Fund, the Hammond Trust, Co-op Fund, cafe owners, people of Hampshire, MPs, Fareham Borough Council. So what information do you have that all these other people don't have that says we can't make it work? None of your reasons for rejecting our plan stand up to scrutiny. We now need urgent dialogue. Finally, Russell, how lucky you are to be in a position to make the people you represent be happier, healthier, better educated, with more jobs and a chance of community growth in their area. However, selling Haven House means you will destroy the heart and soul of a local area and negatively affect the lives of people from all over Hampshire. So give the people of Hampshire Haven House as the community asset that they all need and deserve. You owe it to them. I'm sure you believe in democracy and therefore should listen to the people in Hampshire. Thank you for listening and hopefully understanding. Goodbye.
Thank you, Caroline, for that. We have another deputation from Mr. Stephen Cleave, who I believe is a local resident. So this is the last external deputation, and then Pal Hare is the final person who's been asked, who's going to speak today. So can I ask Stephen Cleeve to unmute, and you now have the opportunity to make your deputation to me.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I would say, having written out what I want to say, so much of it has already been said once, but I'll go through it, bear with me. So I'm here as an interested resident of Hillhead. I've lived here since 1987, and I've lived within about 3 miles of this area since the 60s, pretty much since I was born. And I just wanted to convey the depth of feeling amongst your electorate to put across a number of points after reading the submission and your report. Oh, goodness me.
I don't know whether we had a situation where someone's frozen, but I can't hear Stephen Cleeve now.
No, I think he has frozen.
Okay.
Sorry, I've
no,
dropped out of the meeting
back.
then. I don't know. It's happened twice since I've been on, so I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what's causing it, and I think what I might do is turn my camera off, which
Good
might
idea.
help. Right, sorry, I will carry on. I just want to point out that currently I have no links with either the Hub or the Wildlife Trust, although that position might change depending on your position today. I also wanted to speak really on behalf of my friends and family who have until recently frequented Haven House and the Nature Reserve. I've been interested in this matter since the council decided to close the cafe at short notice, which came as a surprise to many of us. And we could not understand the reasoning behind that. But firstly, the visitor centre and the reserve are inextricably linked. The sale to the highest bidder of Haven House will see a reduction in revenue and the eventual demise of the Haven itself because of reducing footfall. This is inevitable as the site will be much less attractive to visitors who might otherwise come, many of them from outside the area, bringing in much needed revenue. Titchfield Haven is a vital and nationally important breeding and feeding habitat for millions of waders and other migratory birds, and a wide range of flora and fauna. Its effective management and maintenance is absolutely essential in the face of large-scale habitat loss across the country and indeed the globe. This is not a simple issue around planning or a community facility, or indeed the management of a nature reserve. There's a much more complex, holistic point to the habitat management and an opportunity to develop and strengthen educational facilities across the whole county. Above all else, this needs to be viable and, oh, for goodness sake.
Stephen, I don't know if you've suffered a technical problem there, but we've lost you. I'll try one more time. Stephen, can you hear me? Stephen Cleeve. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I think probably what I'm going to have to suggest is that you put in the meeting chat some of the key points you wanted to make, and I'll read them out later if you can try and do that. But I do have to move on with the meeting, I'm afraid, Stephen. So I'm going to move forward, and I did hear what you said up to that point. I'm going to move to Pal Hare. Pal, I was there this morning, so I heard what you said this morning, but happy for you to say whatever you want to say now. And you don't have a time limit because you're a county councillor, but hopefully you can keep it relatively brief. Thank you. Over to you, Pal.
Good afternoon, everyone. In that case, I'll take the whole day and they'll be here until tomorrow. Hello, I'm Pal Hare, County Councillor for Crofton Division of Fareham, and Titchfield Haven and the Nature Reserve actually sit in my division partly. Haven House is in my division, which is in Hillhead, and partly the Nature Reserve, some of it's in my division, and the majority is in Titchfield. And there's a little bridge there which actually separates the two divisions. We're all truly disappointed at Hampshire County Council's recommendations in the report to the executive member for Countryside and Regulatory Services to decline the bid for the much loved Haven House. I say much loved Haven House from the Titchfield Haven Community Hub and the proposal from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust to enter into a 3-year partnership agreement. Now, communication, I have lots of residents who ask me daily what's happening. And to have this known to us like just a week before, they're quite shocked, disappointed, surprised, because it wasn't actually going to be had until the autumn, until everybody had exchanged, negotiated, communication, dialogue. But clearly that hasn't happened. Emails, well, I've been inundated with emails from the community showing their disappointment with the recommendations. Hundreds of emails have been sent to yourself and the other executive member. The members of the Community Hub, who are all local people with expertise in their various professions, have given up their time to build a viable, sustainable and prudent business plan for Haven House because they care about the beautiful area, the community, the house, Haven House, the nature, the harbour and everything else that goes with it. I know I've said this earlier on and you were there, Russell, but I'm going to say it again. The financial viability. In the report, the officers state the business plan is not financially viable. So I want to know, why is it not viable? Why didn't the officers go back and discuss it with the Community Hub when they were actually having a dialogue with them before they submitted the bid? They've been asking questions during the preparation of the business plan and they were very good. And I've been informed that the officers were very engaging during the inception of the plan, but there has been no dialogue since. How can the business plan not be viable when the Levelling Up Department have committed to giving £180,000, as Dame Caroline alluded to? The community have pledged over 200,000, 220,000 I heard today. Lynn Murray's just confirmed that. Now, these grants are out there when they're explored. The lottery funding would probably be interested. Well, Hammond Hall Memorial Trust in Stubbington is willing to help when an application is submitted, and there have been talks. The chairman from the Hammond Memorial Trust was at the meeting today with another trustee, listening to everything that was said. And they're prepared to give 100,000 or 150,000. So when you actually put them all together, there's almost £500,000 there already. So I can't believe that you can say that there's the financial side is not there. The other thing in the report was risk. The report states the business plans carries a risk. Well, everything carries a risk. And I said to you, everything is a risk. We're a risk. We get into a car, we're a risk. It's a risk. When we buy a house, a business, everything can be a risk. And I gave you my personal story, and I'd like to share this with the public too, because this is out in the public domain. And quite a few years when we first moved to Stubbington as a family, about 26 years ago, I bought a little shop, or I was buying a little shop. The reason for it, because I wanted to be home for my children when they came back from school. And incidentally, we did visit the Haven quite a lot when they were children. I went to the bank with a business plan. Now, I'm not an expert in business plans, but I did what I could. I showed them that I had a vision, I had ambition, and I knew it was going to be viable. But I just needed somebody to trust me, to believe in me, that I could do it. The bank, weren't too keen at first, but they gave me the money. And they said to me, they said, well, we don't think you're going to do very well. This is what we think your takings will be. And to their surprise, I doubled the takings in the second week. So unless we take risks, we don't really know. The libraries. The libraries, a few years ago, a couple of libraries were given to the community, and they're thriving really well. So the community, you have to have trust in the community. The community can do it, and this is a community asset. Near me, where I live, is Solent Airport, which used to be Daedalus Airfield. And when we moved there, it was a derelict place, nothing going on really. And Fareham Borough Council bought it. Everybody said, oh, it's not going to work. And I even heard that, you know, some people at Hampshire County Council said this is the wrong thing to do. But Fareham had a vision and an ambition, and they made it work. And collectively, the airport and all the business around it are doing really well. And the projections for the future are looking very good. So we should trust the community. This is a community asset. And I know from the meeting this morning, it was alluded to that the local council should be involved. Now, all councils, yes, they have their agendas, they have their own budget restrictions. Now, when it's an asset like this, and a community actually wants to take it over, and the community want to run it for the community, it's something that belongs to the community, and the community want to run it, and they're capable of running it, and they can bring the money together. Why make a local authority have to intervene? Surely we have to trust them with all their business plan that they've given and their bid, which is very good. I personally think, you know, you really should listen to that. The other thing is in the report, it's constantly, it says best use of public resources. Now I want to go to the cottage, Haven Cottage. I know it's been sold now. It was derelict for quite a number of years. Council tax was being paid on that. That was the public's money. Now, when it was derelict, why wasn't there any money spent on there? I went to see that building in pre-COVID when I was on the Culture and Communities Committee, and it's got character. And that if there was money spent on that place years ago, brought to scratch, I had fantastic ideas of maybe we could use it for the school, the children, education, nature, because, you know, we want our children to know these things. I know my children were certainly interested in this sort of thing. So why didn't we do it then? And why wasn't it, if there was a plan to sell, why wasn't it sold then? It should have been sold then, and then the revenue could have gone into the nature reserve or the Haven House, and we wouldn't be here at this stage. Anyway, finally, and I thank everybody who's made all the comments, and I did want to say a few other bits, but they've all been covered. At the end of the day, it is about the community. The community do love this place. They want us. I'm their representative. I'm working. They are my boss. Nobody else is my boss. And I'm working for them, and I want to make sure that this is not taken away from them. Caroline Herbert mentioned why this place is so good for everybody. So I won't go into that. But finally, I just, Russell, I would like you to either reject the recommendations or give the community hub extra time just to have a dialogue with the officers or with yourself and see what things can change to make sure that the community asset can be left in the community. In terms of the Wildlife Trust, they're experts in their field. I don't have a lot of knowledge on the Wildlife Trust. I haven't been in any of the meetings or emails or anything like that, so I don't really know. But I do know that they do know how to run the nature reserves. So I won't say anything else. Thank you for listening to me, and I really, really hope you listen to this, Russell, and take it on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hare. And I'd like to thank all of the deputies for those deputations, and I'd like to let you know that the leader of Hampshire County Council, Councillor Rob Humby, has said to me that he is planning to watch this webcast tomorrow when he has some time available. So as well as me listening to everything that's been said, I know the leader is also going to listen to a lot of the points that have been made and that have been well noted. So thank you to you for those deputations. And I think I can now move to my official decision item, which is item number 1, Titchfield Haven National Nature Reserve Future Management and Haven House. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I'm not planning to go into exempt session, so I'm planning to stick to the open report that's been published on the website. And I'd like to invite the Director of Universal Services, Patrick Blogg, to introduce the report and then hand over to the Assistant Director, please. Patrick first.
Thank you, Councillor Oppenheimer. Well, the paper that you see, the open paper, really speaks for itself. What you'll find in the paper is it presents a summary of the proposals received, and actually, importantly, it gives an assessment analysis against the key criteria which was set out right at the start of the process. Within the paper, I'm going to ask Joe to cover some detail, but actually the paper presents recommendations for you, Councillor Oppenheimer, as exec member. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Joe, who is, as you said, Assistant Director for Universal Services, who's just going to take us through the key points of the paper before we hand back. Thank you, Joe.
Joe, I can't hear you. We're not having a very good day with the technical details, are we?
No.
Have you got a microphone?
Oh, we can hear you now, Joe.
Oh.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you're
yes,
back.
you're back.
Go.
Apologies. Oh, gosh. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Councillor Oppenheimer. I'm really not going to dwell very long at all. I'm just going to take you through the main sections of the report. I'm working on the basis that everybody has read it. So I'm just really going to go through it in very little detail, setting out what the report covers. And so to start with, well, the early paragraphs 15 to 22 provide some background information along with the link to your decision day report and that of the executive member policy, resources and economic development that was made on 8th of December last year. And that section goes on to explain that since that date, there has been a moratorium period of 6 months imposed when Hampshire County Council couldn't implement the decision that you passed or approved, as Haven House was listed then as an asset of community value. And this period gave the local community and other organisations a chance to submit a proposal to purchase Haven House or any other proposal with respect to Haven House and the National Nature Reserve. In paragraphs 23 and 24, we gave a summary of those 2 separate proposals that we've received, one from Titchfield Haven Community Hub and one from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Trust concerning Haven House and the National Nature Reserve, respectively. The decision day report on the 8th of December set out the criteria under which proposals would be considered. We've been consistent in explaining those criteria to both organisations throughout the past 6 months, and they're outlined in paragraphs 25 to 28. An outline of each proposal and the assessment by a panel of Hampshire County Council officers with specific expertise has been included in paragraphs 29 to 46, and in addition, we've provided some more summaries of the proposals themselves and the assessment that the panel of HCC officers undertook. And I think this demonstrates that we've undertaken a full assessment of both proposals that came forward. So following that assessment against the published criteria, the panel have concluded that neither submission meets the criteria as set out, and therefore it is recommended that the executive member for Countryside and Regulatory Services declines the bid for Haven House received from Titchfield Haven Community Hub for the reasons set out in the report. That the executive member for Countryside and Regulatory Service declines a proposal received from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Trust to enter into a 3-year partnership agreement for the reasons set out in the report. that the County Council work with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Trust to develop a stronger working relationship for the benefit of future land management and nature recovery in the wider Titchfield area. That the Executive Member for Countryside and Regulatory Services note the existing decisions made by the Executive Member for Policy Resources and Economic Development at the decision day on the 8th of December, and that those will now be implemented. And that the Executive Member for Countryside and Regulatory Services notes the hard work that's been done by both Titchfield Haven Community Hub and Hampshire Wildlife Trust in exploring options and in the development of the proposals as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Patrick. Next, I'm going to ask Councillor Jackie Branson if she'd like to make any comments as Deputy Chair of the Universal Services Select Committee that scrutinised the report this morning. Jackie, can I invite you to speak next?
Yeah, thank you, Russell. Obviously, I think we had a very comprehensive look at the report this morning, and we had deputations, and I think the councillors asked some very significant questions. I think in the end, it comes down to how much are we I think we agree that the Community Hub have done a lot of work, and I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with that. But if you look at the money that we need to put into the nature reserve and the statutory requirements we need for that, we're not convinced that, I think that's why we will support the recommendations. But we did ask very much that there is personal feedback to the Community Hub with the time, and there is a little bit of gap between then and the time that we are going to actually market the Haven House. So there is a little bit of further dialogue that may happen, that will happen. I think that would probably covers it. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie. I think that was a very helpful summary. And I think it was a good discussion this morning. I was grateful to the Select Committee.
Mm.
Can I ask whether any of the other councillors present here would like to speak? I mean, I think I should probably go next to Tim Groves, representing the opposition. Tim, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Oppenheimer. Yes, I would support the largely support the representations made at the beginning of this meeting. I think they all spoke very well this morning and in today's decision day broadcast. On top of that, I would I note the council's concern about the lack of revenue to sustain the National Nature Reserve, and I think it should be, you should consider further how it can be financed and how you can go forward. I.e., there needs to be some sort of dialogue with the parties concerned, and so that you can consider supporting this National Nature Reserve in a similar way that's successfully been done by Countryside Services to other country parks. In that case, financed through parking charges. We need to have more ideas of that, and I would suggest that it should be paused for that purpose. I do admit that I wasn't involved last year before the restructuring in this decision or this consideration, but I think it would be worthy of the council doing that and having a pause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Groves. Appreciate that. I'm very happy to go to one of the local Fareham members, Councillor Pankhurst, who was there this morning as a member of the Select Committee and is a member of the independent group at County Council. Sarah.
Thank you, Councillor Oppenheimer. Obviously, I made the statement this morning that I am at the Division Council where the majority of the nature reserve is held in Titchfield Division. And it is vital that the nature reserve is maintained as regards the statutory duty undertaken by local authorities and the Hampshire County Council. I'm really keen that the Hub and the Wildlife Trust are given another opportunity to rethink their bids and to have another review. And I certainly would want to see dialogue between the county and those two parties. And I think that given the timescale as regards any sales going through and being marketing, I think that would be quite a sufficient time to see if there is any further progress that can be made prior to the any particular marketing of the property. So I would urge all of you, all parties, to have another dialogue. But in my position, I'm really keen that the statutory duty is seen to be undertaken and the nature reserve is seen to be able to be maintained, not just now, but that there should be some guarantee that's maintained in perpetuity, whoever takes it on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. That's appreciated. Do any of the other county councillors present wish to say anything? No? Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to move to my remarks and my decision. I'd like to start with some thanks. Firstly, I'm going to thank the deputies again. I'm going to thank the Select Committee for their scrutiny this morning. I want to thank everyone who's emailed me. A lot of people have been in touch. I've had a lot of correspondence, not just over the last 2 weeks, but also last November and December. I have read everything that's been sent to me, and I've thought about it. So even if you've received one of the standard replies from my PA, I promise you I have read your email. And I'd like to thank all of the county councillors who've spoken today, including Councillor Hare as the local member and Councillor Pankhurst as one of the local members. We were clear from the outset that the proposals that were put forward as part of this asset of community value process had to meet a number of criteria, including that they would result in the liabilities of both Haven House and the Nature Reserve being transferred to another organisation or organisations, and that it would be cost neutral to the county council. And given the financial backdrop that we're facing, I think that that was an understandable position. We also said that any proposal had to demonstrate through a viable and costed plan that it was financially sustainable and met the needs of the community, as well as the environmental considerations that are so important in this part of the county. Our original understanding was that the two organisations were working together to produce a joint bid, and that's the Community Hub and the Isle of Wight, the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. And we did everything we could to try and make that process as successful as possible, including making available the proceeds of Haven Cottage. In the event, we didn't get a joint bid. We've got one for Haven House received from the Titchfield Haven Community Hub and one from the Wildlife Trust for the National Nature Reserve, and the bids do not relate to one another. Both proposals have been fully assessed by a panel of officers with specific expertise, and the recommendation made by the panel is to decline both proposals on the basis that they don't meet the criteria. I do want to say that I believe officers have supported both organisations throughout this process, responding to queries, speaking on the phone, providing advice and guidance. So I'm afraid I don't recognise the assertion that has been made earlier that the County Council has not engaged properly with the parties. I just don't think that's a reflection of what's actually happened. I think we have been engaged throughout. I've done what I can to be supportive, for example, by putting in touch the Community Hub with the Long Parish people. You know, I'll come back to that point a bit later. Throughout this process, I've listened to the views of the local community, and I've also listened carefully to the debate this morning at Select Committee in scrutinising the decision, as well as the two deputations this morning and the deputations today. Unfortunately, though, the proposals that we've received, taken separately or in combination, don't meet the criteria we set out, including being viable and fully costed. And they don't meet the financial sustainability objectives of the National Nature Reserve. They're not cost neutral for Hampshire County Council, so they don't represent the best use of public resources. And I'd briefly like to comment on the separate proposals, and I'm going to start with the Wildlife Trust. I'm very well disposed to the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. They come to Petersfield twice a year to our summer festival and our Christmas market, and they do a very good stall, and I always have a chat with them, and I know that they find it very useful to come and talk to people here, and I'm sure they do that around the county. Nature recovery is incredibly important to all of us in Hampshire, and the easiest decision I face today is actually decision number 5 at paragraph 5, which is to develop more of a close working relationship with the Wildlife Trust. That's an easy decision for me to accept. We definitely want to do that. They've got a lot of knowledge, they've got a lot of expertise, they've got a lot of great volunteers, and we do work well with them in a number of parts of the county, and we want that to continue. So I certainly am going to accept the recommendation at paragraph 5. In responding to the proposal that the Wildlife Trust have made, I'm just going to elaborate on how I feel about county farms as the executive member for Countryside and Regulatory Services. So to me, Hampshire's 30 county farms are really the jewel in the crown. They don't just belong to Hampshire County Council, they belong to everyone in Hampshire. I'm very proud of the work they do in the community. Open days, open farm Sundays, they have school visits, they have visits from charities. I'm very proud of their role in the media. When Countryfile want to interview young tenant farmers, they come to Hampshire and they talk to our tenant farmers. And if you watch Countryfile, you will have noticed that over the last year. I'm also very proud of the role our county farms play in the agricultural sector in Hampshire. For example, participating in the farm clusters, which are doing important landscape and environmental work. And also, for example, in our relationships with Sparsholt College. And that's something we've been talking about a lot over the last couple of months. So I know that I'm not alone amongst county councillors in feeling very proud of our county farms. They do have an important role now, and in the future, they will have an important role in terms of our land strategy. Some of them may in future become suitable alternative natural green spaces for development proposals. I don't know, that's to be seen. But because we love our county farms so much and we're so proud of them, I'm afraid we're not likely to want to include them in a proposal such as the one that has come forward now from the Wildlife Trust. So that's some way of explanation for how I feel about that one. Turning to the Titchfield Haven Community Hub, I want to congratulate them for their proposal. It is very detailed, it is very well written. I was really pleased that so many members of the community attended the select committee this morning and heard what was said there. So I don't think I need to repeat that discussion because a lot of them were there. And I was really pleased that the Community Hub adopted the Community Benefit Society model that has been successful at Long Parish. However, the issue that we have with the Community Hub's proposal is that it really doesn't address the investment requirements in the nature reserve. We do put the National Nature Reserve first because it is incredibly important as an internationally recognised site. It's important to the local community, it's important to the birdwatching community in a wider area. And it's a nature reserve, it's important for nature. And of course, we do have a statutory requirement towards the nature reserve that's set out in the report. That's the main issue. But as the report before me says, some of the figures that are included in the Community Hub's proposal, we believe are unrealistic. And I have looked quite closely at the figures, and that is my assessment too. So, as I've said, unfortunately, the proposals don't meet the criteria we set out. So I'm afraid that means that in the circumstances, I am going to approve the recommendations as set out in the report at paragraphs 3 to 7. But I do want to address this specific point about dialogue that's been made in the deputations. As I've said, we have been in discussion and communication throughout the last 7 months. And today, that's not going to end because we have agreed that there's going to be a feedback process to the bidders, and that feedback process will be a dialogue. So we will be in touch with them this week to propose at some times very soon for us to have that discussion. This decision today is the culmination of the asset of community value process, the criteria we set out in that process, and the fact that we haven't received bids that meet those criteria. As a result of the decision that I've taken, this will mean that Haven House will be sold and the capital receipt invested in the nature reserve. I understand that marketing of the property will commence around mid-September. However, the council will now proceed with plans to establish a low maintenance operational base for staff and volunteers, which will improve visitor access and complete some of the urgent works. And we want to work with our wider stakeholder group on that, including the community, to make sure that we get it right. I'm personally committed to ensuring that the County Council prioritises nature, along with all the community benefits of having a nationally important biodiverse wetland in the local area. We'll work with the Wildlife Trust and the Community Club and other organisations to ensure that the investment that Hampshire County Council makes will benefit wildlife, not just in the nature reserve, but in the wider Lower Meon Valley area, and it will also benefit the health and well-being of communities. So that brings me to the end of my decision. And Katie, hopefully you noted in there that I have approved the recommendations at paragraphs 3 to 7. And I'd like to invite you now, please, to terminate the webcast. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And I'd like to thank again everyone who's been in touch with me and all the officers for their support.